on the Indiana Football Show right here at the Voice of College Football on Tuesday nights.
Yeah, my question was actually about Texas Tech because I know they spent a bunch of money and I haven't really got a chance to watch them play this year. So I was kind of curious about what the Big 12's take on them was, but I'll have to go read up on that.
Yeah, nobody has seen Texas Tech play this year. They've played Kent State and then they played some low-level FCS school the week before and beat them by 60. Or maybe I could say this about some other team. Maybe hardly anybody has watched play this year yet.
This is true. I felt like you were flashing the bat signal for me this week. I saw you tweet your weekly, these schools should be embarrassed, had Indiana on there, had Penn State on there, riled up the Indiana fan base a little bit. And I figured I would come on here and just kind of explain why I'm not embarrassed by this non-conference schedule and kind of get your thoughts on a couple things. But really quick, I thought I understood what your top 25, like the real top 25 was that was being released like every week. And then I saw Oregon at 12 this week, and I got to admit, I don't understand what the ranking is. So maybe you could help me understand what's coming out on the channel every week.
Yeah, so it's the top 25 that actually makes sense. And it was born out of seeing the AP poll come out every week and be not completely top to bottom, but there being obvious issues with the AP poll being based on just what certain writers thought of particular teams being good, and despite losing games, they kept them propped up, or just a litany of examples that I could go through that were completely ridiculous. I know that our buddies at College Football Nerds actually pointed out a few things in this week's AP poll that are completely ridiculous, and I forget what was on the post, but basically teams that beat other teams, and we're only 2 weeks deep into this season, that are still ranked below them despite winning the game head-to-head. And then you've got only one comparison between, let's say, South Carolina and Vanderbilt. They both played Virginia Tech, and Vanderbilt was much more dominant in that game. So haven't they performed better than South Carolina? And that's what I aim to do, Alec, is basically forget these are not the 25 best teams in the country. That's not what I'm aiming to do, is tell everyone who I believe are the 25 best teams in the country. My aim is to say these are the 25 best resumes to date. And so those resumes are built largely on the quality of the wins or the quality of the losses. And then basically past that, it's the performance. So it's what wins and losses. And then secondly, the schedule, the opponents, not the future schedule. That's another thing AP voters like to do, is project, but just evaluate these teams based on who they've played to date, and the quality of those teams. Now, let's be honest, there have to be some assumptions made there. So it's not a perfect ranking. I state this all the time. It's not perfect. Nobody can devise a perfect ranking when teams have played 2 games. You know, there's just no way to differentiate to a T best resume, because we have to make certain assumptions about, you know, who is Texas beaten? They beat San Jose State. Well, if Virginia would have started the season and lost to Ohio State and then beaten San Jose State, you know, they wouldn't be given the same latitude.
Exactly. There's no way they're ranked in the top 15, top 10,
even if they
whatever,
had the same
Texas
exact
is.
resume. But I tried to look past the brand and just, for example, Ohio State. I thought they were, I picked them to win the national championship last year. And I thought that they were one of the 3 or 4 best teams in the country. But they had a non-conference schedule, much like Indiana's, and ripped through it at the beginning of the season. I did not have them ranked for like 4 weeks. And people were just losing their minds. Oh, you don't think Ohio State is one of the 25 best teams in the country? This is a farce. No, I do not believe that they have one of the 25 best resumes. So that's the ranking. The Oregon, I just give them a boost based on just completely annihilating and laying these 2 teams to waste.
Yeah, I figured they would be higher. That was kind of the only reason why, because I thought I had a pretty good grip on like the way you were like looking at the resumes, and like for whatever reason, like I thought Oregon would be way higher up on the list.
Oh, way higher. The way you said it.
Oh yeah, I thought they'd be. No. I'm like very, very impressed by Oregon as somebody who maybe thought they were gonna be a little bit more down coming into this year, that's a good football team. That's
So
a
I
really
can't,
good football team.
again, I'm not evaluating how good they are. I'm
No, yeah, and I
evaluating the
get that.
quality of the wins. So
Mhm.
I think I can't even say that. I was going to say I believe that they're better than the 12th best team in the country, but I don't really know that because I want to wait and see them play somebody. Um,
Yeah, that's more than fair.
I weight quality wins higher than I do bludgeoning teams. So I don't have it in front of me, but I'm sure I have awarded other teams with narrow wins against just good teams versus what Oregon's done.
Makes sense. Makes a lot of sense. Actually, I'm glad you brought up that Ohio State championship team because they did something historic last year that I'm not sure many people caught.
Which is,
They were the team with the most transfers in the history of college football to win the national championship,
oh, okay.
beating out Michigan with 10. Ohio State had 11. Before that, I think the most was 3. Or in terms of like the last like 5 years, 10 years.
So let me make a prediction. That is a true statistic. I'm assuming it's a factual statistic. However, I would also say that we can be almost sure that Ohio State, with that number of 11 transfers, will have the least number of transfers of any national champion going forward.
Um no, actually I'm not so sure that's the case. I think it's really hard to build camaraderie and develop chemistry within a roster when you're having like that much turnover. So I say that to
I
bring it
doubt if
back
there's a
to
roster in the country that has less than 11 turnovers, aside from maybe Clemson. And I'm
I,
trying to think of somebody else.
I think that the better you can make your team, like recruit through high school and build up your team, and the more you can supplement through the portal instead of bringing in the majority of your starters through the portal, I think the better off you can be. So I bring that back to Indiana, and you look at what this Kurt Signetti team is trying to do, and it's significantly less than it was last year. Last year it was 31 guys in, 38 out. This year it's 20 guys in, 27 out. So it's still double the amount of new players you're bringing in versus the team that had the most transfers to win a national title. And at the same time, if you look at the guys who transferred in for Ohio State, I think they had like 3 guys like actually play and start and be impact guys, that being Howard and Downs and Judkins. Indiana's got like 18 of those guys, maybe, or at least 10 to 15 of those guys starting and being in new roles in a new offense or a new defense and a new system. And so looking at the way Indiana's scheduled and looking at the way their roster is set up, they need these games to kind of gel as a roster and play. And if you look at the Indiana football brand, I don't think they can sustain a loss against a good opponent on the road. Like look at Arizona State. Arizona State, good football team, decent brand, but doesn't really have the history. They're kind of like this new kid on the block, much like Indiana. Goes into a tough environment against Mississippi State, loses a close game, pretty much right along where Vegas had the odds at, and they drop all the way out of the rankings. They get no respect. And while I'm of this opinion that it's non-conference is essentially preseason. Like you even go back to the 14 playoff and you look at that Ohio State team that lost to Virginia Tech and ended up making the playoffs. Like that Ohio State team didn't get penalized for losing that game early because of the brand, because people understood that that was a different football team they just saw in September than they were going to see in November, December, January. And so
Uh, I
to
believe if you check the rankings, that Ohio State team was number 5 in the country when they played Virginia Tech, and they dropped to number 22. I think they got
I mean,
punished.
it punished them in the immediate short term in the eyes of the public perception. But when push came to shove, when that Ohio State team took care of business, the early loss at the beginning of the season didn't matter. I say this to say Texas losing against Ohio State, if that's their only loss of the season, or they lose a tough road game in the SEC and they're a 2-loss SEC champion, like nobody is going to be disrespecting that team come playoff time. If you look at Alabama, like say Alabama, like maybe Florida State's a good team, and Alabama goes on and they have maybe a loss to Georgia or a loss to Texas. I'm not really sure what the schedule looks like. And maybe they're a good team when it's all said and done. So I think that a lot of these early season games, as long as you have the brand to be able to withstand losing that game, and then obviously you take care of business, a lot of those teams don't even get penalized for losing these games. But if you look at a team like Indiana, if Indiana lost to a Mississippi State, that team's toast. There's no way they're making a college football playoff. So if you look at the way the program is right now versus where they're trying to get to, I think you look at this team in 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, after Kurt Signetti's had 3, 4, 5 recruiting cycles, and he's now bringing in the majority of his guys through high school. Those teams should be playing Power 4 opponents, at least one more Power 4 opponent on the schedule, and the schedule should look stronger. But until that happens, when they're cycling in 20, 30 new guys, it's just hard for me to feel embarrassed when, like, this is literally this loading up to be the second best or arguably best season in program history.
Yeah, I just think that that the non-conference scheduling needs to be fixed across college football. And as long as programs like Indiana, and let's not leave out Penn State, Maryland, and as I listed those teams, this is what's a pretty sad statement about the Big Ten. I don't think we can find another school in the country outside the Big Ten. It's Indiana, it's Penn State, it's Maryland, it's Rutgers.
I mean, listen, you can say Georgia's non-con looks better because they play Georgia Tech, but Georgia's 3 non-con games outside of Georgia Tech are putrid.
Well, I understand that, but
and they play 8 conference games.
Marshall is not of the lowest level of some of these other schools.
Old Dominion, say what you want about Old Dominion, and I take as many shots as I possibly can at ESPN's FPI, so I can't believe I'm about to rely on that metric right now, but Old Dominion ranks above Northwestern, above Purdue in terms of ESPN's FPI. Like, they're a bottom tier Big Ten team. Like, and they get a chance to play Virginia Tech next week. So that ODU team that Indiana beat, that scared them a little bit, I think is a lot better than people are going to give them credit for. And I think that Kennesaw State team is going to give some people issues too. Now, I'm not defending the strength of Indiana's schedule. That's not what I'm doing. But I'm just saying, like, the idea that this ODU team is some like Western Illinois, like, they're a pretty comparable FBS team.
Well, that's something else about my rankings in particular, and just discussing college football and talking about how good these teams are and how good these games are. You mentioned Arizona State losing to Mississippi State and thinking that should not be evaluated as some horrendous loss. Well, we don't know. Most people are going to look at it in light of what Mississippi State was last year, which was horrendous, and the carryover. Now, it's a different team, but it was expected to be a bad football team this year again, maybe the worst in the SEC, and Arizona State lost the game. Now, Mississippi State rips off like a 7-5 year in the SEC. Well, then that game should be reevaluated. But as it stands right now, it's a pretty bad loss for what could be the best team in the Big 12 losing to what could be the worst team in the SEC.
Perception is reality until reality is reality. And like, I know I have a feeling you feel the same way, but maybe not until the college football playoff rankings come out, because that's November. But it's so hard to have a good feeling for what any of these teams are until week 6, week 7, until they start playing conference opponents and you start seeing what they look like on film and things like that. And so, like, it's fun to speculate. I enjoy speculating, and the fact that Indiana doesn't play a high level conference or non-conference game makes it hard for Hoosier fans to kind of position themselves in the conversation, which is why it is so nice that Illinois game is like front and center to start conference play. But yeah, like, it's hard to be embarrassed as an Indiana fan when all I've known is losing football, and Kurt Signetti's just coming out and whacking teams left and right and being annoyed about it.
So you shouldn't be embarrassed. Now, if you want to take up for Indiana University and its athletic department and its scheduling approach, then I guess I will change my answer and say you should be embarrassed.
I will say, go ahead. Sorry.
Kurt Signetti and the Indiana football team, the players on the team, they have no power over the schedule. They go out and play who's in front of them. So they should not have to answer to that. Now, Signetti gets questioned about it, and then he stands up for his team and his conference against the SEC. But yeah, I just view that a little differently than a lot of college football fans in regards to what kind of bullets I should be taking for my program. I don't make the
Well,
decisions there.
I
So
will say I don't think it's an accident that you look at what they did with the non-conference schedule for the next 3 to 4 years, and then the next year after everybody stops talking about what their conference schedule or non-con looks like, they play Notre Dame. I think it is pretty strategic that they stripped the schedule and built it in a way where you can develop the program and develop vibes and have these recruiting visits and have these big offensive days and sell the program, because you're going to play at the end of the day non-conference games. And I would be stunned if after this season the Big Ten doesn't follow suit and mandate a 10th Power 5 or Power 4, however you want to determine what that SEC rule, the 9+1 that they did. I would be stunned if the Big Ten doesn't follow suit.
All right, Alec, anything else? Obviously, Indiana's got one more tune-up before the big showdown against the Illini.
Yep, we got the Larry Bird revenge game, Indiana State, this weekend. It'll be on a Friday night. Brad and I are still going tomorrow night, 8 p.m. We got merch, so check out the VOCFB shop. Indiana will be on there. I'll have an article about the NBC night game. What I was going to try and write it for tomorrow morning, but it's not going to be ready. So by Wednesday morning, that'll be out on the VOCFB.com. And yeah, we're just talking Hoosiers.
Well, we got to make sure we take this opportunity to push as many people over to the Indiana channel as possible. So YouTube is not always kind to us. We'll just say it that way, folks. So the Indiana channel, it's right here, the Voice of College Football. And basically, what is the best way to get there? I don't know if you put Indiana Voice of College Football in a search.
Yeah, I just type in, I just search in Indiana at the Voice of College Football, show pops right up.
Goes right to it. Otherwise, I would ask somebody to put the link in the chat, and if nobody is able to do that, I'll do it. So here goes. And the show is on Tuesday night at 8 p.m., correct?
Yep, Tuesday night, 8 p.m., and then Sunday mornings at 11 a.m. we do the recap. I'll get with Brad and talk to him this week because it is a Friday night kick. So we may be going live on Saturday instead of Sunday. So I'll talk to him and we'll talk about that tomorrow night.
All right, Alec. Appreciate you stopping by here.
Appreciate you, Mark. Thank you.